Hello, my name's Alex and I'm one of the Museum Engagement Officers here at the University of Dundee Museums. Welcome to our store tour where we're going to be showing you behind the scenes in some of our fascinating collections that the public don't normally get to see. I'm going to start by handing over to Matthew Jarron, our curator, who's going to take you into our first room.
Hello, welcome to our textile store, and all the things that you can see here are part of a really interesting collection from an organisation called the Needlework Development Scheme. So this was set up in 1934 and it was run by the 4 Scottish art colleges and funded by Coates, the big Paisley-based thread manufacturer. And they basically were able to send researchers all around the world to collect examples of embroidery and other stitched textiles, old and new, as a kind of national teaching resource. So it was used in the art colleges, but also lent to schools and embroiderers' guilds and various other things. Really as a way of trying to raise the standards of embroidery and textile design in the UK. So it's a real mix of different things. We have some more traditional pieces, so what would at the time have been called peasant work. So for example, this is a little piece from Hungary. But then we also have much more modern examples. So over here, for example, this is a gorgeous piece called The Creation of Flowers, which was made in 1932 by the artist Rebecca Crompton, who was really one of the pioneers of modernist design in embroidery. This piece was actually included in a major exhibition of modern British embroidery at the V&A in that year, 1932.
So what I've got here is something very exciting. Inside this case we've got the Epson HX20, which is considered to be one of the first portable laptops. So this had an impressive battery life of up to 50 hours, and you can see here what made it really cool was it's got its own little printer attached and also a micro cassette tape for recording too. This was designed in 1982, which makes it a really early laptop. But the reason we actually have this in our collection is that it belonged to Peter Lacombe, who, alongside Walter Spear, was part of doing the research for amorphous silicon here in Dundee. So amorphous silicon is the technology that's kind of behind LED screens. So the screen that you're probably watching this video on right now. And this piece behind me here is actually part of a plasma deposition unit that was used in the experiments with amorphous silicon.
So we're now in one of our art stores, and the art design collection is one of the most significant that the university has. Altogether we have over 8,000 works, so a really important collection. And particularly significant is a collection of Scottish fine art over the last 200 years or so. So we have examples of major 19th century artists like David Wilkie, for example, but then on to significant figures in 20th century painting like Robert Cahoon. But I have a very nice example here behind me just to talk about. This is a painting by David Allen, who's really recognised as the first Scottish artist to develop a sort of distinctive Scottish style of portrait painting. And this painting was done in 1776, and it might look like this is a little girl with the dress and the pink bow and so on, but this is actually a boy. This is James Abercrombie, who's the future Baron Dunfermline. And he's depicted here in the estate that he'll one day inherit. So you can see the house here, and it's way off in the distance to give you a sense of just how big his estate is. And there's various other symbolism, so the animals here, the dog of course, symbol of fidelity. We've got this bird here which is eating out of his hand, and that not only suggests that he's kind of in tune with the nature that's on his estate, but also kind of symbolic of the power that he's one day going to wield.
So here I am in the zoology storeroom where we've got an amazing collection of insects. So you can see here we've got some small examples showing kind of life cycles of different insects. One of the most beautifully presented collections that we have is this cabinet of butterflies and moths we've got behind me. So in these different drawers we've got butterflies and moths collected from around the British Islands. So these were collected by Kenneth Todd, who lived in Angus. And as well as collecting different species, he also bred them at home.
So what you can see here are examples from our fantastic collection of classic chair designs. This is a really interesting collection built up by the Art College. There's an interesting story to this. Meyer Lakem, who was the head of design in the 1960s and then became principal of the college, he actually had this great vision, this is way back in the sort of 60s, 70s, that there should be what he described as an iconic museum of design on the waterfront in Dundee. It's amazingly prophetic. And he started building up this collection of classic chair designs, thinking that one day this would form the nucleus of a collection for such a building, interestingly. So the collection covers a real mix of different chair designs, and we really start here. This was what became the first mass-produced chair design by the Austrian Michael Tonne, created in 1859. This was his model number 14. And he was really the first to perfect a method of using a bentwood design that could allow for mass production of furniture. And it became ubiquitous in cafes particularly, and of course you still see it in lots of buildings today. And then by contrast, 100 years later, we have this one over here. This was designed in 1956 by the Finnish-born designer Eero Saarinen. And of course this is much more sort of space age design. And Saarinen said that he wanted to rid chairs of what he called the slum of legs. So originally his idea was that the entire chair would be made of just one piece of vacuum formed plastic. Unfortunately, the technology at the time wasn't quite good enough to allow that to happen, and in the end they had to make the base separately out of metal, and then the actual seat is the vacuum formed plastic. But it was still a really revolutionary design, and of course it ended up being used in lots of science fiction films and TV programmes, so it still has that futuristic look even now, more than 70 years on.
We're now standing in the University Herbarium, where we're surrounded by thousands and thousands of plant specimens in these cupboards all around me. These specimens come mostly from Scotland and the local area, but we also have some from all around the world, going much further afield. These specimens come in a variety of different forms, so some of our older specimens are bound together in these beautiful books, and then we also have some that come in kind of spirit jars preserved in alcohol. And then finally I want to show you our largest collection, which is the Corstorphine collection, that comes in these specimen sheets. The Corstorphine collection was collected by Margaret and Robert, who were a husband and wife team. They were printmakers in Arbroath, but also enthusiastic amateur botanists in their spare time. So they had this goal of creating a complete collection of the flora of Angus, so collecting all the vascular plants. They started this process in the early 1910s and continued right up until they both passed away in the 1940s. Their work, they didn't manage to complete it in their lifetime, but it was picked up by various other botanists over the years, and eventually in 1981 this book, The Flora of Angus, was published, which is still the most up-to-date version of all the vascular plants in the area.
So we're now here in what we call our spirit store, so all of the various creatures that we see around us here from the Darcy Thompson Zoology Museum are all preserved in alcohol. And almost all of these are from Darcy Thompson's original collection, and one of the major ways that he was able to acquire specimens was via the Dundee whalers. So in the late 19th century, Dundee of course was one of the major capitals of the whaling industry, and Darcy made friends with the whaling captains and encouraged them to bring back specimens, and also he sent his assistant Alec Roger and one of his students on whaling expeditions to actually do more scientific collecting. So a lot of the things that we see here were things that were brought back from those whaling expeditions. So for example, we have a crustacean that actually lives on the tooth of a narwhal, rather wonderfully. This was collected in the Davis Straits. It's a little type of Arctic isopod. And then as well as these tiny organisms, we actually got much larger animals as well, including entire whales. We don't obviously have any of those here, but we do have some little baby whales. These are actually whale embryos of the beluga whale. These ones were brought back by Captain Adams of the whaling ship Diana in 1899. Obviously one of the whales that they had captured turned out to be pregnant, sadly, and they were able to rescue these little embryos.
So here I am in one of our medical history stores over at Ninewells, and we've got a whole array of things in here, including some things that would be very good for you and help make you better, and then some things that are a bit more questionable, like these items on the shelf here. So one of the things I want to show you is this scarificator. So the scarificator was designed to help bloodletting as a better and safer method than using the lancet, and this octagonal scarificator was designed in the early 19th century, and it's got 12 blades that would sort of pop out, and then you'd be able to quickly press that and pop them back in and provide a nice clean cut. So the next thing I want to show you is this blood circulator designed by Dr. Macora. So in this beautiful box, really nice packaging, and then inside we've got this device that Dr. Macora claimed could cure all manner of things. So there's the instructions book, and he claimed that this could cure everything from sort of rheumatism to deafness, and how it would work is you've got one handle here, and then the other one you wind round, and you pulse this against the afflicted area of the body, and you can get up to 5,000 reps per minute from this. So you're going really quite fast. And this, he claims that it could cure a lot of things, although there's no evidence to say that it actually could, and even at the time people were very sceptical of it. So there's this incident where he was demonstrating its ability to cure deafness at the Royal Albert Hall, and 200 medical students actually came along and pelted him with stink bombs to get him out the hall, claiming that, yeah, it wasn't working very well.
So that's just a very few objects in some of our many storerooms around various campuses. There's lots more to see. So do check out our exhibitions, come to our various events, including our museum mooches, where we take you around different parts of the collection. And follow us online, including our new Bloomberg Connects app. All the links and details are in the video description. Thanks very much. Bye for now.